everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com back with another massive news update. This time regarding, well, there's a few things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a potential massive return to the ring for a retired WWE superstar. We're also going to talk about the fate of the All In boys. Where are Cody and the Bucks and Paige and who else? Marty Scurll and all them going to end up? Where are they going to go? Nobody quite knows yet, but there is a little bit of speculation to talk about. And finally, Marty Scurll has spoken out about the controversy regarding All In. Of course, if you paid attention, his match with Okada was said to go way over time, which meant that the main event had to be cut short. He has responded on Sean Mooney's podcast, and we will see what he had to say for himself later in this video. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and let's get straight into all of the news. Firstly, according to Big Davey Meltzer, it seems as though Shawn Michaels is going to return to the ring. Mixed opinions on that immediately, because his retirement at WrestleMania 26 was one of the most perfect retirements of all time, maybe the best retirement of all time, specifically and mainly because he hasn't come back since. But after just over 8 years on the shelf, Michaels is apparently thinking about coming back. According to Meltzer, the word backstage at WWE is that Michaels is set for a return, but there's two strange conditions. Number one, it's not going to be a singles match, and number two, it's not going to be at WrestleMania, guys. It's going to be in Saudi Arabia, yeah! That's right, apparently Michaels' return has been targeted for the next WWE Saudi Arabia show on the 2nd of November this year, 2018. It would all kind of make sense if you think about it, because as we know, the people behind the Saudi Arabia show wanted it to be very Attitude Era, very 90s. There were rumours that they were asking for, even earlier than the Attitude Era, there were rumours they were asking for guys like Yokozuna and the Ultimate Warrior, both of whom, of course, sadly passed away many years ago, especially in the case of Yokozuna. They also wanted Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. Their priorities seemed very much kind of based on past elements of WWE's history rather than the present, so it would make sense if they'd want Shawn to return for that event, given that he was one of the biggest wrestling stars of the 90s. This, if it is true, I guess will be very unpopular amongst the majority of WWE fans, because basically you're bringing back Shawn Michaels for a big show in Saudi Arabia, which doesn't tie in too much to many storylines going on within the main WWE canon, the main universe, if that makes sense. It's kind of like the Greatest Royal Rumble itself. We haven't really heard much about Braun Strowman winning that, or the belt that he won, since he really did it. I think he showed up with the belt and maybe the trophy on a couple of Raws afterwards, and then I think the trophy got broken. So yeah, it's a bit of a pickle that WWE will get themselves in if that is where Shawn will return, but we shall wait and see. Meltzer has also spoken about All In and the aftermath of All In, and where the guys, like the core of the Bullet Club, like Cody and the Bucks, where they are going to go. Kenny Omega as well, I suppose I should have mentioned him in the intro. Now apparently, obviously, after All In went off the air quite abruptly, they were all in the ring giving a talk, promo, where basically they insinuated that they're all going to stick together. They said, this is just the beginning, we're all sticking together, don't worry about it. And that kind of implied that they weren't going to go to WWE. Now Meltzer reckons that actually means that they might go to WWE, they might go elsewhere, they might go all over to New Japan, they might all go to Ring of Honor, they might all head to a Billy Corgan NWA kind of thing, or they might, you know, do what they're doing right now, where Omega's chiefly based in New Japan, Cody's chiefly based in Ring of Honor, that sort of thing. I think, you know, I can sort of see that happening, but I can't see them going to WWE. I'm not certain where Meltzer's got this from. I think that the Bucks and Cody and those guys are they're probably making too much money on the independent scene to even want to go back, in Cody's case, to WWE. I don't know if that's really a viable thing, but apparently what their promo meant was not that they aren't going to go to WWE, but that they're all going to go somewhere together, and it's not going to end. Their little collective isn't going to end. Personally, I found another aspect of Meltzer's story more interesting, which was that he sees All In as like the pilot episode of a new series of events created by Cody and the Bucks and Omega and those guys, which I think will be very, very exciting indeed, and potentially the biggest rival to WWE since the days of WCW, and I hope it's true. And finally, Marty Scurll has spoken out about the match length of his bout with Kazuchika Okada at All In, which went, I think, 26 minutes, and is reported to have gone, I think, about 12 minutes over time. Or did it go 28 and it was only meant to go 16, something along those lines. It went apparently 12 minutes overtime, which obviously resulted in the main event being cut short. But on Sean Mooney's podcast, Scurll has said no, that's not the case. Basically, a lot of matches went overtime, and his and Okada's match is just getting the majority of the blame simply because it was the penultimate match of the night. I can kind of see Marty's point. I mean, yes, if reports are true, his match with Okada went way over time, but at the same time, you could say there's a lot of little parts of the show where maybe matches could have been cut short. Things like, I guess, the match with Stephen Amell and Christopher Daniels went a little bit long. The opening match with Matt Cross and MJF may have gone a little bit long for an opening match. I mean, Rey Mysterio's entrance lasted a long time because he wasn't ready to come out. So I kind of see Marty's point. I kind of see both sides of the story. Yes, Marty and Okada's match was probably the main culprit, but at the same time, you can't place all of the blame solely on them, especially on Marty Scurll, when I guess that Okada was probably the one who laid out the match, being the more prestigious wrestler. I don't know, I'm just guessing there, but yes. So that's it for all of the news today. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to, at Jack the Jobber. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic, and make sure as well, if you want, to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never ever forget, of course, to join us.